Clerk will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy C. Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Marty Van Ravensway, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank y'all. Mr. Manius, would you like to get us started
Yes, I just
in more ways than one? Kind of catch you off guard there?
Not really. I just looked and the keyboard's missing.
That's a terrible thing.
Okay.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
He found it, Mr. Duff.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Obviously, this is the beginning of the FY11 budget workshop. We are going to do a presentation for you this morning. It'll be a tag team match. I'll start it off, and the auditor's office will then talk to you a little bit about revenue projections, and then the meat of the presentation, the budget, Debbie will come up and talk to you about the proposed budget that has been submitted to the court for your consideration. With that, we'll go ahead and start the presentation. Let's talk a little bit about appraised values. If you look at this chart, the most telling thing that you'll see on this chart is the fact that for the first time in almost 10 years, the ad valorem values have decreased in Tarrant County. And just to put this graph into context, 2001 through 2009 is the September roll, which we tax against. The 2010 is the July 25th roll, which is the certified roll, which our revenue projections are based on. And so, as you see, we have decreased. Last year, our September roll was $126 billion. This year, it's about $121 billion. Now, that may rise a little bit. We've seen various things that happened from our September roll versus our July roll. I normally see a small increase, but a lot of times that increase is very, very flat. So, as I said, we'll be setting doing the budget as it relates to the July 25th and setting the tax rate as it relates to July 25th, and we'll tax against the September 1 roll. When you look at our tax rate then, what we're proposing is that we maintain the current tax rate. Once again, over a 10-year trend, you'll see that from 2001 to 2010, our tax rate has actually decreased. Let me give you an example. In 2001, our tax rate was 27.47, almost 27.48 cents per $100 valuation. The tax rate that we're proposing is the same one that we had last year, and that's 26.4%. When you compare us to other urban counties in Texas, we still maintain the second lowest tax rate of those 6 counties. You might have read in the paper this weekend that Dallas County is actually looking at a tax rate increase. And to balance their budget, they still have about a $25 million hole they're trying to fill. And but as I said, our proposed budget is one where that we maintain the current tax rate. So when you look at why our ad valorem base did not expand as greatly, or actually contracted compared to expansion in years before, this is one of the major reasons. New construction. Our new construction for last year, we realized about $4.3 billion in new construction. In this year, we recognized about $2 billion in construction. We don't anticipate that new construction will rise significantly, if any at all, as we go into not this next fiscal year, but FY12. We've been talking with the architectural community to see if there are any new starts, any uptick in their businesses, which is about a 12 to 18-month ticker that we look at, simply because it all starts with architectural design, and things are pretty flat yet. So, but this was a major loss for us. Actually, it's about a 50% decrease in what we saw the year before. So, because of the economic turndown, one of the things that we also look at is the average single home value. Once again, you see that in 2010, that value has gone down. In 2009, it was about $152,000 for a single family. That was the average. This year, it's about $146,800. And most of us that have received our values from TAD have realized that appraisals are down, values are down. And this corresponds pretty much to what we're seeing in our decrease in our ad valorem base. So when you look at our tax as it relates to single-family homes, you'll see that it has increased as we move forward. The one thing that had happened in 2009 versus 2010 is actually that the tax bill went down about $7. So that is a reflection of applying the same amount of tax rate to a diminished base for the value of that single-family home. And then finally, on my part, we talk a little bit about the strategies that the court has used in the past on how we work through the budget process. We're going to ask that you take votes today on each budget, and these votes are secondary to the final vote or passage of the budget, but, you know, and it basically goes into one of three categories. It's yes, we're to include an item in the final budget itself. No, where there will be no further considerations that will be given to this particular item. And then finally, to be continued or to be considered, which is something that you may want some additional information and are asking staff to bring that back, or just want a little more time to think about that decision that the court needs to make. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Bertel to let him talk about the revenue issues.
Thank you, GK, and thank you, Your Honor. The three slides that are in the presentation, and I'll get to them in just a moment, present the information at a summary level, and that's all been compiled with a considerable amount of assistance from the people out in the various departments. So the revenue estimate we bring to you is one that we've worked with the fee officers and the people collecting money to be sure that we're anticipating the things that they know of, and they have some opportunity to review the information we provided to make sure that we're all thinking in the same vein. At a very, very high level, we'll just point out that the only real significant difference between revenues between the 2010 budget and actual and the 2011 estimate is cash carry forward and taxes. Cash carry forward is up significantly for a couple of reasons. First of all, the 2010 beginning cash carry forward balances they ended up being about $9.5 million more than we anticipated at the close of the budget process last year. And that is due to a couple of factors. One, there's some late unanticipated revenues that came in, about $2 million. And then the expenditures that we had projected during that process, we're always very careful to be conservative to make sure that we estimate the expenditure trends correctly, came in better than we had anticipated, to the tune of about $5 or $6 million. So as a result of that, the budget was adopted with a cash carry forward that was about $9 million less than we actually had. So part of the increase for this year is the rollover of that, and you'll see that in the slides to come. Additionally, this year we've been very conservative.
Would you push the button, Mr. Bertel?
It's the down button.
I haven't gotten to I was going to go, this is at the summary level, and then I'll show you the details in just a minute. I can push them, but there's the totals. But anyway, The other thing that we've determined this year is that spending trend seems to be restrained again this year. So we're anticipating a little increase in the cash carry forward for next year based on this year's spending trend. Going to this slide, I would point out that if you look at the projected, the fiscal year 10 projected number, the subtotal at $92 million, you can see that the estimate for the 11 estimate is almost identical. So what we're saying is that aside from taxes and cash carry forward, we're predicting a very flat revenue trend. We think we've bottomed and we should receive about the same revenue that we got this year. And again, the difference is results in cash carry forward and taxes. When you look at the 2010 projected, we actually exceeded the budget for the non-cash carry forward items. When you back out there's one item we have in there for contingent revenue, it's $1.5 million that we have in there just in case something develops. If you back that out, the budget was $417,900,000, and we were slightly over that. So we hit budget, and then moving into this year, we're saying it's pretty flat except for taxes and cash carry forward. This next slide shows the component changes from the budget of 2010 to the estimate of the budget for 2011. And as you'll see, if you really, the two big numbers on there are taxes and cash carry forward. The $21 million includes the $9.5 million that we started the year at. So that's the $11 million additional amount that is coming about this year. So overall, we're $7 million more resources than last year's budget. We're about $2 million below total resources that we received in 2011. And the difference is that cash carry forward differential.
What's included in that fees of office that is down $1.5 million?
A big part of that was the sales tax commissions on motor vehicles. And part of that goes in the Road and Bridge Fund, and part of that goes to the general fund. And collectively, in both of those funds, that piece was down from the budget by about $800,000 as just a result of the reduction in motor vehicle sales. We also had there was a fairly significant amount in the county clerk's operations with some of the deed filings and the drop-off in some of the certified copies as a result of the slowdown of the mineral interest. But those are the key elements in that decrease. And for 2011, we're projecting about $300,000 worth of decrease in that line item over what we received this year. So it's again pretty flat, but we think we've hit the bottom of the trough. Then the final slide is the individual funds of cash carry forward, and that just shows what we've been talking about. The increases are comparing the actual estimates for next year to the budget. So if you factor out the $9 million of beginning cash carry forward that we picked up that were not in the budget, then overall we're about 27% higher than we were, or $11 million from what we actually began 2010.
And this cash carry forward basically includes all the reserves for our various accounts, health, workers' comp, everything.
No, this doesn't include workers' comp and the insurance funds. This is just in those three funds. This is the general fund, road and bridge, and debt service only.
Okay.
And the reserve is about $20 million. I think you'll talk to the reserve component of that, but I think roughly $20 million of that number, the 56 total, is reserves. And if there are no other questions,
I guess I'm trying to reconcile that between that and our Excel worksheet that Debbie sent us. And under the revenue numbers that is on that sheet, and I don't know if you can put that up there or not, but can you override his? Yep, you can. Yeah. That's not what I'm looking for. Go up to the very top of that worksheet. Okay, 284. The next line down we're showing is for estimates for 2011. We're showing 0. No, go up to the very top. So the 276 shows nothing, and then below the 7.7 million in tax increment financing, all of those show 0. Why would all of those show 0?
And they actually all get, we calculate the taxes based on our current ad valorem base and assume we're going to collect 100%. But in the end, it's spread between delinquent and all the other items that you see here. So before we approve the budget, that 284 million will get spread among all those categories.
We eventually collect 100%, but it's not all in current
Well,
taxes.
but look at the prior years. If that's the case, then, so what you're telling me is that the 284 compared to the 290 will be significantly less, because the 290 has all those things in there. Or it does not have all those things in there.
Does not. That's correct.
So you're telling me that eventually that 284 is going to work out to be probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 278?
Probably, yes.
So down 12 million from our prior year
The total's
projection.
still going to be less.
And that's the 12 million is 12 to 13 is the number overall we're
Some of that's
projecting.
in debt service.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what was your question, Glenn?
Well, I wanted to be sure that since the 284 seem to be comparative to
The 290.
the 290 and the actual for 2009, I wanted to understand why we were not including any of the other
The delinquents.
amounts
penalty interest.
down there in the bottom area of that. The rest of them are pretty much revenue differences between the various accounts, and I guess we can talk about those either when the individuals probably aren't going to be coming up, but I guess I've asked this question probably every year. I still don't understand why JP 5 is so dramatically lower than all of the other JPs.
It's just a matter of their jurisdiction, their territory.
JP 5 is
It's downtown.
downtown.
All inner city, Fort Worth, North Side.
And then under the medical examiner, do we have included in that his recommended fee increase?
Yes, we do.
Was that a yes?
I thought his recommendations or estimates were $200,000 increase.
We worked with the medical examiner staff, and I think we applied a 10% increase to his individual fee items. And I think that worked. I don't remember. We've had this conversation, but I don't remember now.
I mean, their
exactly.
initial revenue estimates were down about 20 or 30,000 before the fee increase went into place. And their conservative estimates were between 120,000 with a high of 200.
Okay. We have the same, I have some questions with regards to, again, some of our district court fees and fines.
Of course, cases are down overall in felony courts right now.
And I guess my thing there is the differences between some of the courts. You've got criminal district court number 2, which is the one of the lowest at 91, and then you've got the 297th and the 372nd that are $30,000 or $40,000 higher than the other ones. Any reason why there would be, if you could explain why there would be that difference?
I believe the 372nd is Judge Wish. And if you'll remember, we had a conversation 3-4 years ago about his methodology of assessing fines. It's also based on the number of years that they're on probation. And Some of the other courts have adopted that methodology, but it's one of those things that systematically takes a while to build up to.
We've been doing this for 3 or 4 years, and you've been telling me that.
Yes, that's my best recollection.
So it would seem like that the rest of them should be somewhat catching up at this point in time. It looks like, who is the 297th?
297th is Everett Young.
Who is the second? Is that,
Judge Salvat.
okay. And then the 432nd.
That's the newest court, and that's Judge Gonzalez.
Okay. So that would somewhat explain that one.
It's the startup.
And then the criminal court's number 5.
That's Judge Cummings, who has a different docket totally. They have all the, they have all the domestic violence cases.
And then I guess among the JPs, the JP 1 and 5 and 8.
JP1, okay, up, down, different, more, what's your question? Before I
Well,
answer it.
all of them seem to be running, well, they're over 100,000, let's say 4,
Oh, okay.
6, and 7 are over $100,000 in fines and fees.
It's all a matter of where there's DPS highway miles, traffic miles. Some of these JP courts, these are fines. So these are Class C misdemeanor fines primarily. Some of them are Parks and Wildlife. If they've got a lake in their jurisdiction, of course, Precinct 4's got 2. Well, where's Benbrook? Is that 6?
6.
Yeah. So it's all a matter of traffic tickets and Parks and Wildlife,
And 5 would be downtown again.
inner city.
And 2 has virtually no traffic tickets.
No, they have very little.
You mean 1?
No, I mean 2.
2.
Well, they must have something else that they're doing because they're coming in, they're not they're about 62,000 for them, whereas 19,000, what's precinct 1?
It's across the street in the courthouse, Judge Swearingen.
Okay, so 1 and 5 are the 2 downtown courts. And then 8,
8 is out on Miller Street. Judge Thompson.
okay.
There's no consistency to any of them.
There's,
They
well,
have different caseloads, though. They have different things going on in their courts that we have to compare numbers and percentages perhaps to get something that would really be telling.
well, I understand, but again, those are just so far out of the norm, I'm just, they just seem to stick out. Okay. That was, I think, primarily the questions that I had.
That's right, I should be letting you answer it. I should be letting you answer it.
Okay.
Ready for the next act.
Any questions before I get started? Judge Whitley?
Not yet.
Go through your list now. The proposed budget. This first breakdown is what we call a functional breakdown. And by and large, a majority of our categories are down, as you would expect, because we went into 2010 with no salary increases. So we had a stable workforce. So as we had turnover, we were hiring individuals in at a lower salary than those that were leaving. Many of those, of course, were retirements. So by and large, we had about $1.4 million spread out through all the categories of reduced salaries. And of course, the majority of those are going to be under public safety, since you've got a majority of your employees there, not only Sheriff's Department, but juvenile, all the constables, pretrial release, and so on. And of course, you see in here that this year we're recommending a one-time lump sum payment only. Still going to be merit-based. You have to do appraisals, which between Road and Bridge and General Fund is $6.3 million. Now going back up to General Administration, that 2.1 decrease, That's all primarily wrapped up into elections. We had a constitutional election last November that ended up being a joint election. Our anticipation was that it would be 100% county. We also had, so it saved us funds. We also had $1.5 million budgeted in case Senator Hutchison resigned, and we'd have to call a special election to replace her seat. That didn't happen either. So those two combined alone are right at $2 million. Transportation's got a small increase. That's really all related to right-of-way acquisition. In 2010, a majority of our right-of-way funds were actually located in the transportation bond program. We were using accumulated interest earnings for right-of-way purchases, even though there is still $3 million left, anticipated to be left in 2011 for continued right-of-way purchases. Those that were primarily incomplete from this fiscal year, it did require about another $1.2 million in funding from the Road and Bridge Fund. Questions? The next slide gives you some major variations. We have an additional $4.2 million in capital requests, and you can kind of sum all those up in a handful, or actually in one statement, the courthouse. We need an additional $3.5 million to complete our dome restoration, and $2.5 million to actually move the utilities that runs the courthouse that are in the basement of the civil courts building, to move all of those over to the administration building. And of course, before we can look at tearing that building down, we need to move our utilities. While we're anticipating selling additional debt in this fiscal year, there will be no increase in our debt service fund, and that's because we have more COs that are being paid off and dropped off. So we're simply replacing that with new debt for the courts building and the transportation program. Talked about the special election. There are 6 positions that we've recommended a reduction in force on. Their value is $407,000. There are 3 new positions. Those are related to expiring grants, and those expiring grants are primarily related to the 432nd District Court. There were actually 6 positions that we funded out of grants that are needed for the operation of that court. 2 of them expired this year, and 4 more will expire in 2012. The other is a position in the district attorney's office where we've, over 20 years, had a shift in the funding. As salaries have increased, the grant participation has stayed the same, and we were actually spending as much in operating subsidy as the cost of one of the positions that we were showing in that grant. So by moving it formally into the general fund, we've reduced operating subsidy, and it's eliminated some reporting headaches that's necessary for the grant by dropping reporting requirements off on that position. There's an increase in hardware and software maintenance in IT. Council fees has a very minor change overall. The right-of-way increase is there, and I'm sorry I said $1.2 million earlier. It was $1 million. Even though our retirement rate has increased this year, there's not what I'm going to call a significant increase in retirement, but that again is primarily because we've had salary savings overall because we had no salary increases this year, and as we've had positions turn over. And there's a slight decrease in professional services, again primarily in IT. Pretty much talked about the new positions. Those 2 are attorneys related to the 432nd District Court. The one with decreasing grants has to do with the protective orders unit in the district attorney's office. Overall, we had 36 new positions requested, $2.7 million. And again, to emphasize, because we don't have a separate slide on this, there are 6 RIFs. Cash carry forward. Obviously, since there was such a significant increase in it going into this fiscal year, we wanted to pinpoint how it was being used. Because I think one of the things that's made us different
and has kept us from having significant layoffs like other governmental entities is because we're careful not to wrap cash carry forward estimates into operating expenses. For the past good number of years, 6, 7 years, we've been focusing using cash carry forward primarily for capital. And you can see here, this is how cash is being used, keeping in mind that a standard $20 million of that is our reserves and undesignated that we plan for every year, our savings account. Capital, there's $15 million. That's about 4 something over what we have in fiscal 10. The one-time lump sum payment, that's just showing the general fund cash, so that $6 million doesn't equate to your previous slide because that includes road and bridge. When you combine the two, it's about $6.2 million. We did have to use close to $4 million in cash carry forward to balance the budget. Now, that's not unprecedented. In many, many years gone by, we have done that, but it does create undue hardships when that cash doesn't reoccur the next fiscal year. And it's unlikely that it will. We have an additional allocation going into cash forward right now of $5 million. In the cover letter to you, we did recommend a purpose or a use for some of that additional cash carry forward, and that is to create a fund or a funding source for right-of-way purchases. Those are ongoing needs. It would release operating funds in the long run. And they're a bit unpredictable from the standpoint that even though transportation works diligently with TxDOT, the state of Texas, we are at their mercy by and large for when right-of-way projects actually get off the ground and get going. So they become unpredictable. Employee compensation. Like many governmental entities for the second year, we are recommending no structure adjustments, no merit pool, no career path increases, and no step increases. But to recognize our employees, we are recommending this one-time lump sum payment of 3%. Now, formal rules and when that is going to be actually awarded are being developed, and will be presented to you at a later time. Tax rate, as Mr. Mania said, we're recommending that we maintain our tax rate. And you can see that there is a significant increase in what our effective tax rate would be based on the calculation process of 0.283. And of course, what a penny and what a percent of tax rate brings in has diminished since the base is diminished. You can say that the operating budget is balanced, but keep in mind we're using almost $4 million of our beginning cash balances to balance the budget. This slide simply shows what was reduced from various budgets, both for operating expenses and personnel and for capital. Since our tax rate is far below the effective tax rate, there won't be many scheduled requirements of us except to approve the budget. There's no official vote on the upper tax rate limit. There's no public hearings except on the budget itself, and that will be scheduled on September 14th, when we'll have a public hearing, adopt the tax rate, approve the budget, and compensation allowances for elected officials. Ta-da. Judge Whitley.
Seems like we ought to have some applause based on the movie theme.
Well, you know, it was a good theme. Last year's theme was rather grim, so we asked Mr. Duff to liven it up this year.
Any questions at this time?
Okay, you're up. Maybe you're first. Okay, if not, then we're ready to go into the individual department hearings. First one is the Sheriff's Department, Sheriff Administration.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I asked for a little moment this morning to discuss my concerns and my issues. We certainly have spent the last 9 or 10 budget years working together, and I've been very proud of the budgets that we've put together and the compromises that we've reached in the past, and I appreciate all the work that the members of the court have done with the Sheriff's Office over the years. You know, this year we had a special circumstance. We were called, Judge Whitley, into a meeting early on with you and told that the budget was difficult and that we were going to have really, tough times, and it was going to be very hard to do anything that, as far as increasing the size of the staffs or funding employee raises or anything like that. And, then we move forward and find out that there's some money there that I guess no one really anticipated, at least at the time of that meeting. And, I've sent you emails. I've talked to you over the years. I've been turned down over the years about our problems at the courthouse. And I'm just here to tell you this year, we're again, begging for relief in the courthouse. I've talked to judges. I sent y'all an email on Friday. We're actually going to have a first time ever. We're going to have a trial this week with no bailiffs. They're going to hold a trial, a criminal trial that Judge Galler's going to hold. We can't supply him any bailiffs, and he said we're going to go ahead and have the trial anyway because he's tired of not being able to get people to that. This is the kind of correspondence we have daily at the courthouse. Never before have I known us to have a trial, but it's going to be a criminal trial with a defendant, and attorneys and the jurors and all those people can't feel very secure in a courtroom having a criminal trial with no bailiffs, but yet that's where we are. And I'm up here year after year telling you about the shortage and about how tough things are. And I guess, I'm just here to say my dismay then is to find out that we come up with $3.5 million to fix the clock at the courthouse. We come up with $2 million to upgrade a courthouse. Millions of dollars to make the courthouses look better. Yet I'm here to tell you the courthouses are not secure. People are in danger every single day in that courthouse. My people are in danger. The citizens who come down here to serve on juries are in danger. The attorneys who come in there to operate every day are in danger. It is a thing that is stretched so thin and so tight over the years that just gets worse and worse each year. And each year when we're put off, then it gets to a situation where we'll never catch up. GK and I had a conversation early in the year, and he said, what would it take? What would it take? And I told him what it would take. And he agreed. We're too far behind. We'll never catch up. So it is just a situation where we are to the breaking point. We work
Sheriff,
over.
would you care to tell us what it would take?
Our current shortage right now, by every best staffing estimated we got, is we're 14 employees short.
Is what?
14 employees short. And no one, including me, believes that we're ever going to stand up here in one budget year and approve 14 new employees. I understand that. But
How many vacancies do you have right now over in confinement?
None that I know of, maybe 3. It goes back 3 or 4. We don't have hardly any anymore. We're hired up to,
Do you know?
if not, it'll be.
I didn't have a chance to look that up. Lauren, can I see?
I thought,
On 8/13, Cynthia Smith said you had 31 vacancies, including 6 in detention.
6 in detention, that's about
31 total vacancies.
That's about what we run. But I mean, with those, that
That was
fluctuates.
Friday, or
Yeah.
Friday.
So where are those vacancies?
Sherry, do you know? We're home.
I don't know about 31. I do want to make a statement about,
We're gonna come up.
good morning.
morning.
I do know that there is a time lapse in the hiring process of when we could submit our CS5s to HR. I know that's an issue, Debbie, right? So that may be where you're all seeing the 31. If we look at the report just a few days later, you will see those mostly filled up.
This is just
So-
your email. I'm sorry, are you Cynthia?
No, I'm sorry, I'm not. I'm Sherry
Very
Gunn.
good. She's our budget director.
I got Cynthia Smith. This was Friday, 31 vacancy, 6 in detention.
So you're saying that we get these emails constantly, so they don't mean anything?
Well, they are behind. They lag behind.
Correct.
And we have, for the last really year, we have hired up to maximum, and we've literally established waiting lists for most of the positions. Now, and I'm not saying that when we have, 5 or 6 or 10 resignations at once, that it doesn't take us a while to catch up, but we are carrying no significant amounts of vacancies any longer.
Is there some way we could get a report that's more significant, or more telling of what the real issues are? I mean, that's very deceptive. If I believe there's 31 vacancies and he says we're full all the time, that's not telling us anything.
And it really kind of surprised me. We went back and looked how many new hires we had this fiscal year, knowing that most people are not mobile at this point in time, and there were actually 200. Now, that was a little surprising, even though we've got over 4,000 positions. There were 200 new hires.
You're saying that's more or less of what you expected?
It's more than what I expected.
Okay.
Now, I don't know, Commissioner Fickus, if you have access to previous reports. I mean, at any point in time, 30 may be the normal number for the Sheriff's Department, because while we hire these 30 on, 30 more maybe have terminated. So
Well,
I
the
don't know
number's
how,
always, somewhere between,
in double digits somewhere.
yeah, I mean, I've seen it in the 40s.
The numbers they don't fluctuate dramatically. So we're either 2 weeks behind or the numbers are meaningless one way or the other. Because when I look at that and it says there's 31 vacancies, I really believe that.
Well,
But
I think one thing that it's kind of like a river. Some water goes out and some water comes in.
Well,
But you
nobody
keep-
ever told
but
me
you
it was a
keep-
river.
You keep that about 30 vacancies. It may be down a little bit sometimes, and it may be up a little bit sometimes. But that 30 pretty much corresponds to the 200 new positions that are new hires that we talk about. That number there is not a surprising number, and especially since you see that number almost every month. And those numbers are accurate to the records we have in HR. Now, are they 2 weeks behind? Maybe so, but as I said, it's a flow. And so you normally have about 30 positions that are open.
Pretty good indicator as to what departments the people are leaving in, and I don't want to see the report stopped. I want to see it. I think it's a good report.
What
It does. It runs about.
what our people leaving the people leaving out of the two areas the quickest are obviously the jail staff, the people hiring on the lowest end. Some of them don't stay very long. They either move up or move out. And the other one is the one I'm here today most concerned about is our courts and securities people, because of the job situation we've got them in. We have to hire all certified police officers. They've all had experience somewhere else, mostly when they come in with us. And it's a very difficult position that they're in now.
And you've got some senior people in that operation, so you're going to see retirements occur there.
Retirements they are by far the most senior group. So they retire as well. But we've had recently a run on younger officers that have come in that just haven't stayed, that just have come to me and said, it's too much. I can't do it. And we've got, supervisors just strung tremendously thin. Our span of control over there, a sergeant supervises 37 employees. It's just no way that should ever happen in law enforcement. We've got, as I said, just overtime. 2 weeks ago, we worked 80 hours of overtime in an 8 to 5 job. Now imagine that. We worked 2.5 full-time positions of overtime with people that all work the same hours. I mean, the judges, bless their hearts, and they are working as hard as they can to keep the jail population down, but they are just constantly. This Judge Gallagher thing was a perfect example of what's going on, trying to run 2 courtrooms at once without any allocation from us for having anybody there. Yes, Commissioner.
How many officers did that 80 hours encompass? How many officers were involved
In the overtime, I didn't look specifically, but there was a good number of them, 5 or 6 probably from 2 different courts. 2 courts that week had continuing long-standing trials going on. And that's just an average thing for us because, we got guys that start early and they go late. And, it's impossible, like I say, with an 8 to 5 shift to have anybody to call in. We post now, just so you'll understand the full magnitude of what we try to do. We have 144 full-time employees allocated in judicial. At the beginning of each day.
Is that bailiffs or
I'm
security
sorry?
guard? Is that bailiffs?
Everyone, total,
Okay.
144. At the beginning of each day, we try to man our posts that we need to man are 129. So we're trying to man 129 posts with 144 people. That doesn't include one person being on vacation, doesn't include one person being off sick, doesn't include FML, doesn't include workers' comp. It doesn't include trying to ever get anybody trained, which takes days away. So you see that we start every day literally not even able to man the posts that we have, much less fill in all these extra. And I had them keep them. I was here last year. We had over 1,000 requests for extra security in 1 year. We had over 1,000 requests in 1 year for extra security, just like the one that I forwarded to y'all Friday. That's the list of posts. There's 129 that we do with 144 people.
Just an FYI, we just ran the current vacancies, and it's 30.
And one thing, and the sheriff brings out a very good point. He has 129 posts, and he has 144 officers to fill that 129 posts. Those extra 15 officers, the way we had structured this was that allocates about 30 extra days per post for vacation, training, and sick, workers' comp. Now, I don't know if that's the right number or not, but that's the process that we've used. And
Last time I looked, we had, I think, 22 out on FML in that division alone. I think, something like that. The number was astronomical. And with these being the most senior officers, they have the most leave time. They take the most vacation of anyone when we let them, on the rare occasion that we let them. And they also have a higher incidence of being off for sick and FML and family leave and things like that. So it's just a situation where, I completely understand where we are budget-wise, but it's just hard for me to say, let's make our courthouses look better when the courthouses aren't safe.
Is there any way that, and I know that they have to be licensed, I believe, to be in the courts, whereas in the jail and the confinement area, they're not required to be licensed? Is that correct?
To work in our court system, you have to be a licensed peace officer, yes, sir.
But you don't have to be a licensed peace officer to be in the confinement, to be a jailer?
you have to be a certified jailer.
And the reason I say that is because our jail population, just over the last 6 months, had been as low as right below 3,000, and it's now up to about 3,350. And it's hovered between that 3,000 and that 3,400 mark, really for the entire year. It would just seem like as those populations are going up and down, I mean, I know that there's nothing ideal about the 48 to 1 or any of that kind of, discussion with regards to the jail, but, if
We're
it was-
mandated by law to have 48 to 1.
Right.
Okay.
And if you
Well,
took
you
the
understand that.
3,400 on average prisoners, and if it was ideal and we had exactly 48 to every one, then that would say you need about 370 jailers at a 5.2 for each position type situation. And we've got 938 positions in that area. And I realize that there's classifications. I realize there's multiple locations. I realize there's supervisors. But that's about 2.5 to.
And truly, Judge, if we weren't staffed that way, I would be here giving you this same speech about the jail, because we break even because of that with our FML, our people out sick. I mean, I think we got 100 and what did we have the last time we looked, Bob? I'm sorry? close to 100, just out on FML alone. And so, we'd be in the same position because we've got that little bit of pad in the jail. We don't do that. And let me say, as I always say, this is all done, a lot of this with the hard work and the genius of these supervisors. And I'll tell you what, the people that work over there in courts and security that make this work every day and have judges just every day yelling at them. They only yell at me about once a week, but they yell at those people every single day. And I mean, it is a tough life to live over there. And, I am not Chicken Little. I've never come to you and say the sky is falling, but I'm here to tell you it is a powder keg over there. We have tired people that are working too long hours, too hard. We don't have enough people to go around. And most of you have been here when something bad happens in a courthouse.
Are there any of these posts where you're working security that could be eliminated?
We've looked at everything we've got, Commissioner. If we think it can be eliminated, we've already eliminated it. I assure you. We're not. I don't think there's any place left that we're, feeling good about, thinking, hey, we've got extra people here or there.
Well, you and I visited a little bit about this last week. I don't know how the rest of the court feels, but I'm gonna make a recommendation according to, and I'm looking at the general fund budget for the Sheriff's Office security, and I believe he had asked for a total of 9 people, and he got none. I think you indicated that you're how many short right now? 14.
14, yes, sir.
But if we gave him 3 additional deputies and 1 sergeant, do you think we could make it through the year?
It would be a great help to us, Commissioner. It would be a great help. It's not going to fix the problem, obviously. It doesn't equal 14, but it will be a great help, particularly the supervisor position. We'll let some of the air out quick for us. That would be a tremendous help to get the 3 into 1.
And I'm just using math. He asked for 9. I would propose that we put 4 in there, 1 sergeant and 3 deputies. The total dollars that is reflected in the request was $464,574. So if you just split that, it'd be about $232,000 that would be included.
I think the situation requires some attention. However, I rather resent the accusation that we care more about how courthouses look than about the safety in those courthouses. As you well know, Sheriff, the repairs to the courthouse come out of capital funds. We can issue bonds to do that. We can't issue bonds to hire security officers or deputies. You're talking about apples and oranges and creating a false impression in the minds of the citizens of this county when you get up here and make statements like that.
Commissioner Fife, I apologize. I didn't mean to say that. All I saw in the budget was that it was not any kind of, it appeared to me it was just coming out of the general fund, that we had that money allocated for the clock. And if I'm in error there, I apologize. But I don't want to ever do anything that's offensive to you or this group of people, because you know that you have my respect. However, when you're year after year after year, we come and say this is a terrible situation, it's a bad situation, and nothing gets done, it just continues to get worse and continues to get worse. And I'm just doing everything I can to protect all of the people that go to that courthouse, not just my people, but the citizens of this county as well. And I know that is your desire as well as mine, and I never intended to say anything different.
And I think that we're all in a position right now where we're trying to pinch our pennies and watch that.
I understand.
What I guess I see is that our jail, through your hard work, through the DA's hard work, and through the judge's hard work, our jail pop has stayed down low. And really, we've been pretty consistent around that, between that 3,000 and 3,500, I think, for close to all the time that I've been on this court. I mean, we thought we were going to take it up a lot higher, and I know that we've got a new jail coming on board, hopefully in the next couple of years, that is going to at least take some of the bad of the baddest away.
And Judge, let me say that every time we can't do one of these trials, every time that we tell a judge no, then the likelihood of the jail population going up increases, because that's what they're doing. They're working through to get these people out of jail, and it's much more expensive to keep them over there and keep them for months and months and months than it is to have a couple of bailiffs there to make that court function and to get them through and get them out.
And I do understand that. I guess the frustrating part is on any given day, we've got 224, 200-plus prisoners that belong to the state that we're having to keep. And that in of itself is about 20 employees that we would not otherwise have to have.
Well, Commissioner, I share your frustration, Judge. I'm sorry, I share your frustration. We can go into a lot of other areas where there's frustrating. Talk about the people sitting over there on blue warrants. We've begged and begged and begged to have some relief from the state. Do something about the prisoners sitting there for months on blue warrants that we have absolutely no ability to do anything about. That's equally, if not as bad, as the people that are paper ready waiting to go to TDC. And I mean, we do everything in our power, and you know that you don't have to ask me and Chief Knowles to push harder, because we have pushed and pushed and pushed, and and the same thing out of those judicial supervisors. I mean, I would not supervise the amount of people those people try to supervise right now, and with the daily pressure that they are under and with the judges demanding of them, because like I said, it takes a while before it gets to me. They're there every single day. And the judges, I hate to push back on the judges, they're trying to help. They're trying to keep the jail population down for all of us.
With 3 new security officers and a sergeant, can we avoid the situation where we have courtrooms uncovered?
We will do everything we can. Commissioner, I will not tell you that if 3 or 4 judges decide on the same day to have a trial, I mean, we work with them every single day, and we try to be reasonable, and we try to negotiate back and forth. But I will tell you this, it will give us some much needed relief. I will go away grateful, and I will go away and tell our people, hey, we have helped you, and we will tell the judges we have helped you as well.
I guess the thing that's somewhat amazing to me is that we're going to have, what it sounds like, we're going to have a criminal trial without a bailiff. And I'm just going to bet you that I could walk into that court building when that second trial is going on, and there's going to be 1 or 2 of those courtrooms that are not going to have any activity going on. And so I guess the question, and Cleoff, you can pass this back to whomever, but I'd like to know what the bailiffs in those courtrooms are doing at that point in time. Because it ain't going to happen. They're not all going to be busy at that time frame. And so, I don't understand to some extent. I would grant you that very rarely are there trials going on in every one of those courtrooms at the same time.
And the only thing I'll say in response to that is it is stretched much thinner than you would imagine. And I go over there and I look, and I'm like you, and I think I get frustrated with the judges that won't release their bailiffs back to us when we need them. Most of them do, and I give them a tremendous amount of credit. But I will tell you this, it is stretched so much thinner now than it used to be because of the amount of work that goes on and that those people that are just constantly pushing people through.
Well, and we say that, but at the same time, we get reports that filings are down in some of those areas, or at least I believe that's what I have been hearing this year. And so there seems to be disconnect someplace in here.
We had a discussion many years ago, probably before I was on this court, about taking those bailiffs and putting them into a pool I know you don't want to deal with that.
Commissioner, I'm
if they
more
were
than willing to deal with it.
centrally rather than belonging to any one judge who may or may not have a case going on at any particular time, it may benefit the taxpayers rather than the judges.
You know, those judges take vacations too. What happens to those bailiffs when that happens?
Actually, they have visiting judges that come in and
They
take
do?
their place. Yes, the docket keeps on going.
Generally, you will find that when the judge takes vacation, the bailiff takes vacation. You generally find that those are synced up in the real world. They
And of
plan
course,
to be all
We do
together.
have 12 jury weeks a year. Now, that doesn't mean there's no activity in the courts, but I think that's probably when the courts ask their staffs to look at leave time more than anything is during non-jury weeks. But there's still operations going on in those courtrooms, regardless of the jury status.
Well, I know y'all have done a good job managing your people because our overtime used to run several $100,000 a year.
Yes.
And that's gone away. And from me to you, Sheriff, and your people, I appreciate that.
Well, you're welcome, and you know what? We have held a gun to their head since the day I got here about not spending it, and they haven't. And I just feel like we've boxed them into a corner now, and I feel like we need to get them some kind of relief. And I don't want to just throw up my hands and say spend all. And this isn't. Let me say one more time: this is not a situation where overtime is a cure. If it was confinement, I could cure it with overtime by snapping my fingers. Because if it was patrol, you can bring your midnight shift guys in 4 hours early and let them work 4 hours overtime. We got the same group of people working the same hours. I got nobody to call in to work overtime. All of our overtime happens early or late. And as you see, we get plenty of it. And 80 hours in the week of it, that's a lot of overtime for people working the exact same shifts. I just don't have anybody to call in and say, hey, come work overtime. Because they're all here already. Every able body is in place. And that's,
I just don't know the answer to the question, but are there folks that would qualify because they are are they licensed or whatever that might be in confinement that would want some overtime work and could work over there?
we have drained the confinement pool of peace officers down to the absolute bottom. We are, in fact, we changed one of our peace officer requirement positions over there not to require peace officers. We call it a senior specialist now, where we don't have as many. We got to a position where we didn't even want to fill the jail jobs with peace officers because we have so few left. So the short answer to that is no. And plus the training curve and knowing what you're doing, just grabbing you or me and taking us over there tomorrow and giving us a badge or a gun doesn't really help. You've got to know what's going on, and you've got to be trained, and you've got to be in with the flow of things.
Debbie, could y'all get us the figures on what
I think I
a
have
sergeant and 3 deputies?
I think I have it here. I think it's, what'd you say your number was? I come up with 308,719, and some of that's capital, and the capital is primarily radios.
How much?
308,719.
Well, in the budget proposal or request, they were requesting 9. That was 3 sergeants and 6 deputies, and it was only 464.
Okay.
I believe there's.
I came out with 556 for all of it, Debbie.
556.
556, 792 was for when we had the whole thing in, is what numbers we had.
What was the start date? Was it a November start date? Which it normally is. That's fine. I mean, that may be part of the price difference.
Is the 464 just the salaries? It doesn't include any of the benefits or the retirement or anything else that goes along with it?
I don't know. I'm looking at page 36 in the budget. The budget request.
That's right.
Well, you can get, I mean,
Because if that's not total, then
No, that's simply the salaries. The benefits and those issues are not calculated into the salary deal. There's an additional percentage that you need to apply to that. Yeah, that's good.
So Debbie, the number that you gave us is the total number of the salaries and the benefits and the capital?
citizenship.
To the best of my knowledge, and I'll look at that in a little while and make sure, but I think this is the answer. 308719.
I'm gonna write that down, but I wish you would verify it.
Oh, don't worry, we will. We will. I mean, basically, I think what I did here is I took the 3 sergeants and divided all that by 3, come up with 1, the cost of 1, and the 6, that was 6, right? 6 deputy sheriffs you requested and divided that by 2, so it's half the original cost.
That's what I did as well. I took a third of the supervisor and
So Helen, what is,
Would you like us to bring that number back to you?
Why don't you bring it back to us a little later on? So at this point in time, you're recommending that we throw this into the, right now, the approved number, or you want to put it to be considered, adding 3 officers and 1 sergeant?
On this particular one, I'd like to go ahead and approve it if we could, but I'm optional.
I don't have a problem with approving it, except we don't have a number. We don't know what we're approving.
Well, the only thing we know for sure we're approving is 4 additional officers, 1 sergeant and 3 guards, or security deputies, excuse me.
Okay, I'm going to take that as a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion to that effect, and I would like to then, we'll put the figure when Debbie gets back with us, but the motion is to add 3 security deputies and 1 security sergeant to the sheriff department's budget.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
I thank you all very much. Our budget was excellently prepared, and I appreciate everyone's hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Sheriff, are you satisfied with all the other elements of your budget? Yes, sir. Okay, great. The sheriff has stated that he's satisfied with all the other divisions within his budget. So we're going to ask that if that's the wish of the court, then we ask that you
Move approval of the sheriff's budget.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Commissioner Brooks. Now we're going to be going to constables, Constable Precinct 1.
Now, we're asking those that have a problem with the budget to come forward, is that right?
Yes, and Ms.
unless
Snyder.
we just didn't hear from.
Ms. Snyder has contacted the constables, and there are at least 3 that we've heard from that are satisfied with their budgets.
And I bet there's 4.
That's correct.
You're satisfied?
Yes, sir. On behalf of the Constable Jerry Crowder, we're happy with what we have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If we could have a motion, please.
I move approval.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Precinct 2. Precinct 2.
Oh, I did hear from them. I'm sorry, I did hear from
If we could
Precinct
get
2. They called instead of sending an email. They're satisfied.
If we could get a motion, please.
Move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Motion passes unanimously.
Precinct 3.
We have no issues or concerns with our budget. We appreciate what we have.
Okay.
Move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Both Precinct 4 and 5 have indicated that they are satisfied. If we could get a motion.
Move approval of
4 and 5.
precincts 4 and 5.
First, second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Motion passes unanimously.
Precinct 6. Precinct 6.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Precinct 7.
Move to do away with,
Members of the court.
Good morning.
Hello, members of the court, to assist with the budget restraints this year. We have no issues. Thank you.
move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Motion passes unanimously.
Precinct 8 has indicated they're satisfied.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Motion passes unanimously.
Next is the medical examiner. Dr. Pirwani has indicated that he is satisfied with his budget.
Move approval
I
of
want-
the medical examiner.
I will second, but let me ask a question here. Debbie, Dr. Pirwani and I had some discussion, and in fact, he brought me some paperwork, and I don't have it with me, but he was wanting to add some positions.
Correct.
That had something to do with the DA's office and prosecution and so on and so forth, I think. But he said that the revenue that these people would produce would offset the expense of those positions.
And based on what we're seeing right now, that is not correct. Now, when I talked with them, we told them that we would watch diligently their revenue throughout the year. So there's an anticipation and there's a hope that as we move into 2012, that we'll see something different materialize than what we're projecting right now.
Okay, well, Dr. Pirwani asked me what would I recommend. I told him with the situation we were in this year, I'd recommend that he stick with not hiring these people, but that I might ask the court to look at it mid-year or something to see what the revenues are looking at.
Didn't his fee increases amount to about $200,000?
Not that we can predict at this point in time.
Is that what he thought they would be?
That's what their original estimate was. But again, I've got to emphasize that when we were doing the revenue estimates going into fiscal year 11, there was a projection that the ME's office revenues were down.
Okay.
So when you start lower, you're not going to end up with as much gain.
Yeah.
But as I said, and I did talk to Ron Singer in their office, we will watch them closely throughout the year.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Next one is Fire Marshal. Mr. Renoir says that he is satisfied.
Move to approve.
Second?
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Motion passes unanimously.
CSCD is satisfied with their budget.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Passes unanimously.
Pretrial is satisfied with their budget.
Move approval.
Well, I'll second it just to see what happens. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Motion passes unanimously.
Juvenile Services has indicated that they are satisfied with their budget.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Let me make a comment about the 323rd District Court. Even though they are satisfied with their budget, there was a request in there for funding for their family drug court. Primarily, it's been operated off of grants for a good period of time. Obviously, our recommendation is to continue the operation of that court, but it will be funded from a family protection fee, a special fee that was assessed several years ago.
Move approval.
Second.
You're moving approval of what?
I think we've already approved the whole budget.
Well, we did juvenile, but now we're doing 323rd.
323rd District Court.
Any discussion? Motion passes unanimously.
We've had word from Public Health, Human Services, and Child Protective Services that they are satisfied with their budget.
Move approval of the.
Now, you said
budget
public
commission.
health. You meant public assistance.
No.
Public Health, Human Services, and Child Protective Services.
Public assistance are those special budgets.
Remember that Public Health is not in the general fund.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Public health is really under JPS.
Well, yes, but we always bring their budgets here for your approval.
Do you have a motion?
Yes.
I think we do in a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Next one is Public Assistance.
And obviously, that's something that we prepare. There's no increases included in this particular budget, even though we've received a request from Challenge. I'm sorry, I said that incorrectly. From, I'm sorry, it's over in Judge Boyd's court. No wonder I don't see it. Never mind. Received a request from CASA. We're going to recommend a $5,000 increase from them, but again, from the family protective fee.
Now, this fee has been collected,
For several years, yes.
and where has the money been going up until now?
We've not allocated it today.
So it's just been in a fund?
Just been accumulating.
Okay.
Correct.
Can we have a motion and a second for
Move for
something?
approval.
We don't have a motion and a second for anything.
No, I just.
So what- that's
made a
public
motion.
assistance would be?
That's public assistance. I just
Staff
made a
is
motion for
recommending approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Texas AgriLife has indicated that they are satisfied with their budgets.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Veteran Services, Historical Commission, and the Resource Connection, all three have indicated that they are satisfied with their budget.
Move for approval of the three budgets mentioned.
Second.
Well, I got one exception with Resource Connection. I am so sorry. It's indicated here, it's a neutral adjustment. We're going to take $3,804 from building maintenance, add $6,000 to capital, and $2,916 from equipment rentals.
Say what?
Let's
Let's
do
go,
this.
let's do the first two.
Yeah, if we could ask approval of Veteran Services and Historical.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Motion second. Motion passes unanimously. Now Resource Connection.
It's a neutral adjustment. $3,084 reduced from building maintenance, $6,000 added to capital, and $2,916 reduced from equipment rentals. The total is zero.
Move approval.
But that works out to the same as what we're looking at, bottom line. I'll say.
Bottom line's the same.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Motion passes unanimously.
We're now going to go to courts and judiciary, and we're going to civil courts. The first one is
Wait a
seven.
minute.
I'm sorry,
How about Historical Commission
We already
Archives?
did that. Oh,
we did that with Veteran Services. There is one non-departmental, I'm sorry.
Did we?
That's part of
Yeah, we
Resource
did.
Connection.
Okay.
Oh, it is.
So now what are we doing?
We're moving to judiciary, we're going to the civil courts.
17th District
What
Court.
happened to non-departmental?
That's part of Resource Connection.
Why has it got your name on it?
Yeah, all non-departmentals have my name on it.
The one
Sorry.
above, doesn't it? Has Judy Ketchum.
Huh? Well, Resource Connections is Judy Ketchum.
I know, but this says Debbie Snyder here, and this says Judy up here, and you're saying that it's the same.
What page do you think we're on?
Does it change something?
71 and 72.
Let me see it. Hold on. Let me look at your document.
Surely the computers can't be wrong.
No.
Well, you've stuck a non-departmental in there that's not in our computer.
Oh, no, that non-departmental is Resource Connections. It is
Okay.
Resource Connection.
And this is what he's saying.
If you look over to the far left, but it is still part of Resource Connection. Back to my original statement.
Just
all-
having your name on there. is
All
good, though, we'll find
departmentals
out.
do have my name on it. That's correct.
So did we approve that a few minutes ago?
Yes, yes, sir, we did.
And where might I find that under Resource Connection?
It's
On
at the
page
top.
70.
At the very top? Non-departmental, okay, I see it. So did you get that we approved both the non-departmental and the other one on that?
17.
Okay, so now we're back to
17th District.
17th District Court.
Okay, so what we're going to ask, 17th District is okay with their budget, so we're going to ask that the following courts be approved: the 17th, the 48th, the 96th, the 141st, the 153rd, 236, 342, and 348. All of those courts have indicated that they are satisfied with their budgets.
Did I miss the 67th in there?
They have not indicated that they are satisfied at this point.
So what are we going to do with it?
We're going to come back. I want to pick all these that are satisfied with
All
one
those
motion.
that you have said are satisfied, I move for approval of those budgets. You got that?
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
I'll let you have the motion. I'd already made it, but
Give it,
fine.
Passed unanimously. Now 67th.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Johnson moved.
Is there anyone here from the 67?
No.
Second.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
352nd.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion is second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Now we'll move to family courts. 231st.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion is second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
We could ask approval for the 233rd, the 324th, and the 325th. Each of those judges have indicated that they are satisfied with their budgets.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion is second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
We could go to the 322nd.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion is second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And then finally, the 360th.
Actually, that court's currently vacant, so no one to hear from.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion is second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
We can now go to county courts at law. Court number 1.
Move for approval.
Second.
Our motion is second. Why is the salary decreasing?
Well, that's a court that'll turn over during the year in January, and that judge currently receives longevity, and the new judge will not.
In our scheme of trying to make all the judges pay somewhat equal, did we not take into account the longevity?
I mean, the same thing applies for district judges. They receive from the state of Texas longevity based on their years of service. And I forget what that benchmark year is. And so we have applied the same.
So regardless of our
16 years? Thank you, Clayton.
So regardless of our attempts at trying to get the judges to be of equal pay, we have been
They are still,
unsuccessful due to longevity.
they are still equal based on their years of service. So a 16-year county judge and a 16-year district judge will make the same thing. A 15-year in the same situation will make the same thing.
It's just when they hit that 16th year threshold.
I understand. I'm just saying that I thought we were going to make all the judges' salaries equal and adjust our supplement, not make them unequal and keep our supplement the same. Under the theory that one judge's salary should probably be the same as one other judge's salary, as is the same with.
Okay, but to put that in perspective, if we took a district judge that has under 16 years of service and we paid them that longevity, the state of Texas would pay them less. Because combined salaries, they cannot make
Which means that
more.
we would have to pay supplement more.
No, they would pay them less.
But we would pay them more to get them to the same equal pay as what all of the other judges are making.
The district judge would still make a combined salary of, and I'm making up numbers here, they can only make a combined salary of $140,000. If you took an equal county court judge, they would make $144,000.
No, because we would reduce that county court judge to where he was making the same $140,000.
Because he wants everybody to make the same salary.
Okay.
That was, I thought, our goal with our judges.
Then we would have to reduce, everybody has less than 16 years by 3,800 and whatever the longevity amount is.
Did you get all of them to sign off on that?
No, they forget everything once a year goes by and it's time for them to get another increase.
And I think this longevity issue came up about 3 years ago.
It's a state law, Clete. I understand it's a state law, but I also understand that if it wasn't for our decision to try to make them all equal, they would all be making a lot less money. Because we gave them supplements and we gave them increases that the state didn't give them. And the whole goal is to, until the state basically put a ceiling on what they could make, we were giving them the same increase as we were giving our other judges. And it was in an effort to take into account what the state wasn't doing. And we do that, and then basically somebody says, well, golly, I need to make more money.
You know, the state removed their caps for several years. And we did go to a lot of effort to recognize the facts that the judges were frozen for a good period of time. But when they replaced those caps, then they've been frozen again for a good period of time. And the state does not include this longevity in salaries when you call the state of Texas and ask them for a salary. But again, when I give them a salary affidavit of what we pay a judge, I would have to include that, and they would reduce their state pay.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Court number 2 is satisfied with this budget.
Who is?
Court number 2,
Move
she
approval.
is.
Second.
A motion is second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Court number 3,
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion is second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
we'll now move to probate courts. Court number 1.
Okay, probate, there's Mark here. Probate court, after the recommendations came out, approached us with a situation, and this, in a nutshell, is what they are wanting us to take in consideration, and at this point in time, we have no issues with it. They want to eliminate their court reporter position. They want to fund 50% of a staff attorney, which is currently being paid out of a special fee fund, and that special fee fund has issues with funding on a regular basis, so they want to pick up 50% of a staff attorney. And that staff attorney position is actually a project position, and it's called a project position because its intention or its intent is for the person to turn over annually. Biannually, I'm sorry, every 2 years. And of course, we'll have to fund some contract or substitute court reporting services out of that original court reporter's salary. In all, without looking at it closer, I'm going to guess it's going to be cheaper. It's going to be a bit less than the salary of the authorized FTE for a court reporter.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion is second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
They included your recommendation. Thank you.
Yes.
Court number 2,
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
we'll now go to criminal district courts. Criminal district court number 1 is satisfied with its budget.
How are we saving $23,000 in salaries?
Helen? I'm sure I've asked her that question already. I just don't remember the answer. Bailiff transferred during the last year.
Mm-hmm.
She had a judge's bailiff position that she transferred to the sheriff's department during the year. So some of that funding is in there for FY10.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion is second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Court number 2,
Move approval.
Second. Second.
We have a motion is second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
court number 3,
Same thing's true here. She transferred a court bailiff to sheriff's department during the year.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion is second. So is it just the timing as to when that transfer occurred?
Correct.
Motion passes unanimously.
is that court 4? Court number 4.
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
213th.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
The 297th is satisfied with its proposed budget.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
371st.
Move for approval.
Second.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, the court's 372nd, 396, and 432 are all satisfied.
We'll move approval for all of them.
Second.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. We're going to request that you approve the proposed budgets for the Magistrate Court, the Criminal Court Support Department, the Grand Jury Department, the Criminal Attorney Appointment Department, and the Criminal Mental Health Court Department.
Move for approval.
Question. The salary decrease in the magistrate's court is due to what?
Court coordinator turned over during the year.
Turned over.
Retired.
There's that big of a difference?
They have a career path. You know, they can go up to a grade 72 and they're replaced with a grade 70, assuming they came from the outside, had no prior coordinator experience.
They've got 5 full-time equivalents in that department.
There's 4 magistrates and the court coordinator.
All the magistrates are equal.
Yes, sir.
They do have a chief magistrate.
Oh, that's correct. They do have a chief magistrate, something we did year before last. So I think he makes 5% more than the others. That neighborhood.
What does he do different?
He supervises the other magistrates. He sets their schedules and, evaluates those sorts of things.
I move approval that for the magistrate's budget, subject to making the chief magistrate's position equal to all the others.
I'll second that.
We now have a motion and a second.
We had an open motion.
You had a motion, but you didn't have a second. I know it, but he never got a second on that. So we've got a motion and a second discussion.
Yeah.
Are you lowering that salary?
Let's go back. What are you proposing to do to put the chief magistrate making the same as the rest of them?
I think you're proposing to do away with basically the chief.
I'm
The
proposing to
designation.
do away with the chief magistrate designation.
The designation or the bonus?
The extra.
The extra that goes with it.
Well, who's going to do the job that he's doing on assigning these cases and things?
They can't figure that out themselves.
They can figure that out.
They were doing it. Who was doing it prior?
Until 2 years ago, they were able to do
The
it.
person who's been occupying this job has been performing that role for a long time and was never recognized with, plus we picked up another magistrate and the job became more difficult. And another part of it becoming more difficult is that we're using the magistrates now to select juries, and there are a lot of scheduling issues with that. And we have newer magistrates. We have some magistrates that haven't been magistrates with us as long, and there's some training issues with that. I'd ask you to keep this position.
I think we're keeping the position. We're just reducing the pay.
Well, there are extra duties for this job. I mean, otherwise the job would be the same as any other magistrate, but there's supervision involved in this job, which I think you approved two budgets ago.
Other discussion?
Well, I'm still have the same question. Who's going to do the supervision?
I think they're just going to have to figure that out.
They can rotate it.
Please vote. Motion passes 4-1.
Okay, now we're asking that the court approve criminal court support, grand jury, criminal attorney appointment, and criminal mental health court.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, we can now go to county criminal courts. Criminal court number 1, 4, 5, and 6 are satisfied.
Move approval.
We got y'all figure it out. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Criminal court number 2.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Number 7.
Did we do 3?
Sir?
Was 3 in that first list?
I don't think so.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Commissioner. Number 3.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Motion passes unanimously.
Now number 7.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Number 8.
Move approval.
Second.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Number 9.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
We're ready to go to justice of the peace.
How about number 10?
I'm sorry, number 10.
Let me say something about court number 10. CDC number 3, which is Elizabeth Berry. She does not have a staff court reporter right now. The judge that will be replacing her January 1st will want a staff court reporter, which works out okay because Judge Sorrell, he's going to hire Judge Sorrell's court reporter. And he wants to go to using contract court reporting. But he will also require a substitute court reporter 3 days a week and an admin person 2 days a week. We'll address all of that come January. We've not taken consideration of the swap of the position yet, but I just wanted to give you some forewarning that that would be coming to you as Election Day and new terms start January 1st.
Okay.
So as presented, it still includes the court reporter position, but just FYI.
So what you're saying is the current budget is one you recommend?
Correct.
Do we have a motion? So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Let's take a 5-minute break.
Thank you. I'm going crazy here.
Check my numbers.
Oh, yeah, now.
Okay, and I did have a conversation with the city manager.
Talk to them about it, at least ask them to look at it.
Thanks.
I think you need to be careful if we could put off something. We did that in the past. We had a process for replacement.
We're moving right on them right now.
If things don't get better,
Well, I don't think we're going to get double for at least 2 years.
I don't think so. I don't even think they do.
But I think if we're not careful, we're going to find ourselves back there next year saying everybody cut 5% out of your department.
Some way, maybe we want to go to school instead of the period of time.
We need to talk to Judy about that.
Because I think the idea is awesome, but if it's not accomplishing what we need it to.
I think I can really tell too much by looking at this. Those are precincts. Okay, there's the, those are the most important ones right there.
No.
Or the patrol card. Those are supervisors in patrol.
What precinct is this?
I'd have to look it up. I don't know.
I want to look at that, but I don't think,
I don't want us to take on security officers. I want us to take
no, oh, here?
Some of them are prescribed, some of them are legislated by law.
They could willingly do it, couldn't they?
They could willingly, I think.
Your Honor, and members of the court, we can now go to Justice of the Peace, Precinct 1. Judge Swearingen.
Move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Precinct 2.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Precinct
Judge.
2 accepts the budget.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Precinct 3.
And I have a quick comment. Judge Casey is here. He had requested 10 additional days, visiting judge days, for legislative issues. When we spoke recently, I did overlook that request from that standpoint, but I did tell him that we'd only be recommending 5 at the most anyway. And then Judge Casey also made an additional request for $1,000 in travel for his travel during legislative issues.
The reason for that is the Justice of the Peace and Constable Association for the state of Texas has asked me to be their legislative liaison this year. I had talked to Commissioner Fickus about a year ago before I had decided to take on this role. I already serve as the Justice of the Peace representative on the Texas Judicial Council, And the days for that I do out of my regular audit days. And then I also serve as the chairman of the Texas State Advisory Board to the United States Commission on Civil Rights, which is a federal board. And I use my time, my normal audit time for that as well. And just starting to get stretched a little bit thin, but I think it brings a lot of honor to Tarrant County to have someone from here represent the JPs on those particular commissions. And just this year I decided to, bringing on this new role, I thought I'd ask for a little bit of help on that.
5 additional days would be $1,167 for visiting judge time and $1,000 for travel if that's granted.
Move approval of the budget auditor's recommendation, budget director's recommendation.
Does that include those adjustments, sir?
That's what you just
Yes.
recommended.
I just wanted to make sure.
They are included. Let me make sure I understand.
Yes.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
Sure.
Thank you. And Judge Casey and I did discuss this certainly at least a year ago, that he was going to be performing these duties for the association in this next legislative session. Debbie, you and I talked about this last week, and you indicated that the 5 days are what I think you said Judge Carr,
who acts
was
like
utilizing in his position as a legislative liaison for his association, and
But we provide him no additional travel.
well, does he just turn that in, or I mean, what?
Well, it has to come out of the funds that he has available for education.
And are you recommending paying the travel?
I mean, we do pay it. It just has to come out of the budget they have available.
Mm-hmm.
We pay it if he turns it in. I can't attest whether he's turned it in the past or not.
Well, I assume that in this particular instance, the additional travel is due to his duties to go back and forth to Washington, not Austin.
Austin.
It's Austin.
Austin, yeah.
Austin.
And I will say that the education budget that's in the Just Peace budgets is very important for this next coming year. Well, actually, that'll apply more than 2012. It's a legislative year, 2011, so any training that's due to the clerks will be important to 2012.
Judge Casey, did you not say the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights?
I serve on that commission, but I do not have the county help me out in any way on that. I take care of all my travel and expenses for that, and then any days that I'm forced to miss work for that commission, I take out of my personal vacation days.
I see.
We don't have vacation.
I would hope we would recommend to cover his travel.
Well, and if you accept what we're proposing now, is an additional of $2,167.
And that's for the 5 days and the travel.
Correct.
Okay,
And that was the motion.
that's your motion. Okay.
And just as a side note, when I spoke with Judge Casey, just like our agreement with Judge Carr, if those days aren't needed for legislative efforts and they're not available to him to take off.
Yeah,
They're
I understand
for
that.
legislative efforts.
You understand that?
I understand that. I don't have a problem.
Any other discussion?
No.
Please vote. Motion passes 4-1. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Members of Court, Precinct 4 and 5 are satisfied with their budgets.
Move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Precinct number 6.
Move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Precinct 7.
Move for approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. The difference of $9,800 in salaries.
I'm going to assume that's turnover of employees without looking deeper into it.
I believe that's correct.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Precinct 8.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And just a comment regarding the JPs, there's several courts where we'll have new JPs starting January 1st. Obviously, we want to assist with the incoming judges in protecting the visiting judge days as much as possible. So we may pro-rata what we have in each of their budgets, so that only a portion of them are available to the current sitting judge this fiscal year, for the balance of this calendar year. I may create an undesignated within their own budget, and of course they can't spend that, they can't touch it, they can't access it. But we will make some sort of effort along those lines in those affected JPs.
Are we ready to move forward? We will now
I'd
go
like to make a comment in regard to the JP. I believe that you have seen through the years that there is a considerable inequity of caseload in some of the courts. And I've brought this to the attention for the past 2 years, and again this year, and request that next year when we do the new boundary lines for the commissioners, that there be some
Redistricting.
serious consideration given to the JPs. I realize that this has to go before the Department of Justice for their approval, and that's what the resolution says this year, but please seriously look at it. There is an issue that cannot get resolved until something is more equitably distributed.
We redistricted the JPs during the last decennial. We did a small redistricting whenever the northern boundary suit was finalized. One thing is that JP districts, it is not a one vote type issue. It's one where that you can simply draw those lines on geographical boundaries rather than a voting
So
person.
then it doesn't have to go to the Department of
It
Justice?
does have to go to the
Okay.
Department of Justice, but it's your boundaries are, it's one man, one vote for basis. JP is not.
But even if it were, and even if you equalize them as to population, you still may not have the effect of equalizing the caseload because of disparities in neighborhoods.
And that gives you the flexibility to draw it on neighborhoods, Commissioner.
And with JPs, you're always going to have the situation where attorneys are going to file cases in the courts they like to operate in. While it's understood by us that you're supposed to file a case in the precinct of the defendant, you can actually file a case in any precinct you want to. It's up to the defendant to ask it to be moved into their jurisdiction. Now, most people don't know that. I mean, we have Dallas attorneys that file 100% of their bad debt cases in Precinct 4. And we have the same thing happening in Precinct 2 to some extent. So you're never going to solve a situation like that.
Okay, we can now move to District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Administration.
I'm going to make a quick comment before Mr. Collins gets up here. In your electronic version, you can't see the fact that the requested reorganization by the district attorney is pending. Now, we hope that that'll be resolved before we actually finalize the budget hearings and approve the budget. We are waiting for job descriptions and for positions to be evaluated. We didn't want to make any assumptions on what those jobs would come graded as. We're also going to recommend that 20% of a paraprofessional position that's currently assigned to the JPS contract, that we actually pick up 20% of that position into the general fund, and that position will be used to oversee the other paraprofessional positions of the district attorney's office that are located separately from the balance of their staff in the Family Law Center. That being the Protective Orders Unit and the, help me, Marvin, I forgot the other one. Mental Health Unit. In the end, I think the reorganization and even the 20% will end up being a neutral dollar impact.
That is an issue that we discussed with Ms. Schneider during our budget meeting with her. We had requested a grade 16 support person in protective orders, And after some discussion, we realized that we might be able to transfer some supervisory duties. The problem is that as you know, our hospital unit is 100% funded by JPS. We don't pay that. They pay the cost of that, including the benefits. Well, we have a grade 71 in that unit, and that unit is co-located with protective order and mental health. We can utilize that person's supervisory skills for 20% of her time. For the other 6 support staff that are present in that location but in different units, we would simply not bill the hospital for that 20%. And that solves our problem, and hopefully will solve the problem for some period of time. It's something we have dealt with in the past. We've made that request before, I believe. And so this would solve that. Members of the court, I wanted to take a moment just to say that, as you all know, our friend and colleague Tim Curry passed away in April of '09. And thanks to his 36-plus years of leadership and your unwavering support of the District Attorney's Office, he established what is arguably one of the finest district attorney's offices in the nation. That's something that couldn't have happened alone. That's something that was done with the support of this court. Our new district attorney, Joe Shannon, has faithfully maintained most of his policies. He's maintained the management structure that Tim put in place over 37 years ago now. And all of the management personnel as well. As a result, we've had a very smooth transition. None of our senior people have left. We haven't changed anything. But now that Mr. Shannon's been elected, he does want to reorganize upper management. We haven't had a first assistant in that office since Mr. Curry's been there. The last first assistant was in 1972. And Mr. Shannon and I both remember when we had a first assistant, but we haven't had one since then. So what we're now wanting to do is simply reorganize our upper management with existing personnel, and Mr. Shannon anticipates that new management would be in place by January the 1st. That's the goal. And he's proposing doing this without adding any new management slots, just restructuring and regrading those that we already have. There will be 2 new management positions created, 1 position slightly tweaked, 1 management position eliminated, and 1 regraded. But no net increase in management slots. More importantly, we're proposing that this be done without any increase in the budget. And we are working with Ms. Glenn and at HR to go through the process of restructuring and regrading. They've been very cooperative, very helpful in guiding us through the process of redoing our upper management structure. We'll have for the first time in all those years, we'll have a first assistant and a deputy first assistant. And we do anticipate having all this accomplished before you vote on the final budget on September the 14th. That's our goal, and we have turned in position descriptions, and we're tweaking those, and we're working with HR right now. With regard to the budget, we have worked with Ms. Schneider, and with that one exception, 20% of a grade 71, we're very satisfied with the compromises we've made. Obviously, we didn't get everything we wanted, and but Ms. Schneider was flexible, and by keeping everything to a $0 increase, I think we were able to accomplish what we wanted to accomplish. And so we accept those recommendations that came out of the budget office with that one small exception that Ms. Schneider has addressed to you and I've addressed to you.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. When do we expect the reorganization part of that? I mean, I hear you saying before we vote, but let's see where we are in this process. And one of the things that I would have asked for and want to see as we go forward is comparisons between how the office salary structure compares with other offices, at least of the big 5 counties around the state, just to get some sort of a feel for that and making sure that we're to some degree comparable in that regard. Where do we stand on that, Robin?
We are working with them on their job descriptions and their position description questionnaires, and so we hope to have those to us maybe by the end of this week, and then we'll get a job evaluation committee scheduled early next week, assuming that we get those evaluated and get that information back to you. We have collected some information from some other counties about their pay structures, and I believe we forwarded that to you all, but I'd be glad to sit down and meet with you about it if you'd like us to.
And likewise, we would too.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a part of that reorganization for me, that's going to be an important factor that we have to, that at least from my standpoint, that I need to understand and kind of put into the whole thought process.
One of the advantages we've had in this district attorney's office with the support from this court is that while we are not having any problem filling our new positions, the thing that has made this such a successful office is that we have kept the pipelines filled at the mid-level, the advanced level prosecutors, and the management, so that when we have somebody leave or retire, we have the pipelines full and we can promote from within, because there is no market out there for assistant district attorneys. You can't go hire an experienced assistant district attorney, with some exceptions.
And so you've got a couple exceptions there, including your DA, don't you?
Well, our DA's been working there for 10 years now, again.
But you're bringing another one back here pretty quick.
We are bringing one back, and occasionally we do that. But and he's been there before too.
And somebody standing in front of us, I think, also kind of came back, didn't they?
I came back twice. I came back twice because this is the place to work. It really is.
Robert Browder came back.
This Robert, somebody we're talking about is Strickland?
Yes, it is. But generally speaking, if you don't have the pipelines filled for the mid-level and the advanced prosecutors and the upper management, there is no available market generally for those people to come in. Usually those people would be people you would find from Houston, Travis County, El Paso, Dallas. Well, what that requires is that somebody be willing to relocate. That requires a geographical move. And that is, usually that's unrealistic. Not always. Every once in a while, if a new district attorney comes in another office and somebody leaves, as a result of that, we can pick that person up. But we do appreciate HR's working with us, and we appreciate your consideration of this.
Well, and again, because of the department that Mr. Curry and you and Alan have created that has made it attractive to folks coming in, and I think that's what's made it, maybe we're the exception to being able to bring in people because of the caliber of the department y'all created over there, and y'all done a great job.
Well, thank you, and we appreciate that. And by the way, this is Mr. Levy's last meeting. He is unfortunately retiring and leaving us. We hate to see that. We tried to talk him out of it.
Yeah, he's not been near as vocal this time as what he's been somewhat in the past. Is that short timer? Is that short timer attitude?
Oh, yeah. Mr. Schenken told me not to say anything.
I can say I've had some great one-on-one meetings with the district attorney staff, budget meetings in the foregone past. They used to take all day long, and they were very interesting. And Alan was always a major part of that.
We're going to miss you.
Will never be forgotten.
We're going to miss you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So at this point in time, we're going to approve the budget, but we are going to see, we've still got the reorganization to come.
Right.
That's correct.
That was the motion.
And we have a second.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, the district clerk, the county clerk, and domestic relations have all indicated that they are accepting of their proposed budget.
Move for approval?
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
The district clerk was included in this.
Be quiet.
Thought you were going to make some cuts.
Did you get a vote?
He already did make, I mean, the district clerk made some cuts.
And he's going to come up here.
All those in favor say vote.
Vote.
Say vote.
Vote.
They voted unanimously. Thank y'all.
Jury services,
Suzanne, thank you again for your service, and thank you for all the work you've done for Tarrant County. Thank you. Thank you, Tom. And
jury services,
Move for approval.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
special judges.
The special judge's budget and the court judiciary budget are ones that I prepare. Unless there's questions, obviously, we think they're good.
So we'll entertain a motion for both, Your Honor, if that's okay with you.
That being special judges and
Courts and judiciary.
Correct.
Move approval.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
We're now going to administration, county judge.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
County administrator. We're satisfied.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Motion passes unanimously.
4 of us should have voted against it.
Non-departmental, Schneider.
Again, if there's no questions, obviously non-departmental for both the general fund and the road and bridge are something that we prepare, along with the debt service. And we're recommending that you accept those as well.
So moved.
As presented.
Second with a question.
Sure.
How do we get to lowering retiree group insurance by $600,000? How does that happen?
Our projection is that it was over budgeted in 2010.
Wow.
Okie dokie.
How'd that happen?
And we have great hopes for 2011.
Well, everything that has to do with health insurance is forecast, because the plan and design changes in January. So we're looking quite a ways up the road. And and we talked about this a bit in the budget letter. The 10% increase in health insurance didn't materialize. And so this is an area where we can actually take that into consideration.
You might remember that in FY10 that we did away with our HMO, and we're self-insured on all of our plans now.
We're self-insured for everything but retiree. I mean, that's actually purchased insurance for our Medicare supplement plan. For our Medicare
Y'all are about to be guilty of overselling the issue.
Okay, I won't. Done.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Both the county auditor and budget risk management have said they're satisfied with the proposed budget.
Move for approval.
Second.
And that also includes debt services.
Actually, the debt service vote came in non-departmental and debt service, Your Honor.
And there is a RIF in budget and the risk management.
We need a motion.
No, I think we have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Tax assessor collector.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. I just have one quick item on our budget. I did have, if you're interested, a handout. GK mentioned collections earlier would be at 100%, and at the end of July, we are sitting at 100.08% of collections, if you'd like to see those. I'll get you those. A couple pieces of real quick good news, and then to the budget item. Parks and Wildlife, with a very soft 2 months, or really 7 weeks opening, we've made $7,000 for the county, and that is no dealer work yet. That is just wording out to the public and one small notice. So it's beginning to pick up. We're real pleased with that. The other good news, we have done some, since we met with Debbie, some analysis on our staff and with the programs that you've helped us put in place, and the better we've gotten at our efficiencies. We have 2 positions that we have decided now that we're going to eliminate. Both of them are vacant. We weren't going to fill them. One's a grade 16, one's a grade 17, but we will be giving those back to you today. And they are not figured in that.
That is correct. We were waiting for their final analysis.
Yes.
We appreciate your diligence on that.
Yes, so that's 2 back.
Excellent.
Is that in administration, motor vehicle, or ad valorem?
One is in accounting and one is in property tax, and I think accounting is under the administration.
I think so too.
The pay on those is 20.26 an hour, and the other one's 24.63 an hour.
All right, thank you very much.
That'll give you back 2 spots. The difference that we have in the budget, I'll give you those back and then ask you for $12,000 back. We have an issue on our supplies. We had budgeted originally $75,822 for supplies for both property and motor vehicle. Debbie worked on that, cut it down, looking at the actual. She came up to $63,000. It's a difference of $12,733. But we have had a significant increase in the cost of TxDOT, or DMV, quit printing forms about 14 months ago. We now have to print every form that goes to the public, and taking on Parks and Wildlife, we are printing all those forms. So the cut in supplies is really going to suffer. My staff has really done a good job at paring their budget back, but I don't believe we can get by without that $12,000 in supplies. Plus the storage boxes and several other things that we have to ship to the state have gone up. That is the one item I'd like to ask for an adjustment on.
Move approval of the tax assessor's budget, including the additional $12,000.
Thank
Now,
you.
what supplies number is that going to?
I'm just going to say it's a motor vehicle, which is line 2,853 on your cell file. Is that okay, Betsy?
That's fine.
12,000,
Yeah.
whatever the exact number is.
Which,
In your motion for clarification, it's the elimination of 2 positions also. We'll have to get back with you.
Absolutely.
the dollars on those. Would y'all like to see these on collections?
Thank you.
The other thing is I did see an analysis of all the tax offices statewide, and you do need to know that with your input in all our electronic payments, we have by far the least number of staff and a much lower cost than any other large office in the state, in Tarrant County. So I'm very proud of the help we've received from y'all and what we've been able to do in the tax office. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, and any time a department says something like that, I always like to throw in that by and large, you're going to find that is true of our operations overall. That we are simply smaller and leaner and more efficient than in other large urban counties.
You know, and just from a personal note, I too have kind of seen that. I wish that we could compile information with regards to that so that as we move further down the line in approving our final budget, that we can say here and basically complement our various departments on the job that they do on a continual basis to keep, to stay leaner and keep those things under control. So if we could do that, I know I've seen some numbers from Tom and others before, but if we could do that, I'd appreciate us doing some comparisons with some of the other major counties. Did we vote?
We have a motion.
I'll second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of Court, on elections, information technology, and human resources, all 3 of those departments are satisfied with their proposed budget.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
purchasing.
Morning.
Good morning.
Jack just wanted me to remind you that purchasing did cut 6% from our budget this year, and we are satisfied with the budget. Operating budget, yes.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Phillips has indicated that facilities is acceptable.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, we can now go into Road and Bridge, Precinct 1.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Precinct 2.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Precinct 3.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Passes unanimously.
Precinct 4.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, Transportation has indicated that they are satisfied with their budget.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. That included right-of-way, correct?
Yes, all 4 of those. Your Honor, and members of the court, just for your information, we are going to continue to carry a work session item on the standing agenda for our normal Tuesday meetings through September 14th so that you can discuss budget-related issues at any time. With that, Your Honor, that's all we have this morning.
Somewhere down the line, I would like to visit and on the capital for vehicles for the county. $900,000, I believe, is what I saw in there, and I'd like for us to have a little briefing and let's see where we're at on those vehicles and see if there's any way that might could be trimmed a little.
Now, Ms. Snyder, when are you going to bring the capital budget to the court?
The capital budget itself will be approved with the special purpose budgets, which is the last Tuesday of September, whatever that is.
If that's agreeable with the court.
That's fine. I guess before we adjourn today, I would just like to remind everybody that we just did in about 2.5 hours what most counties spend a whole lot more time on, and I want to thank our budget department and all of the departments for working through and with our budget department to save us as a court a great deal of time and angst. So thank you very much for everything that you do. All of you, and again, for everyone else working through and being as diligent about working with budget as they go through that process.
And I think that one thing that has helped our budget department, especially the past 2 years, is by giving earlier direction as to what the anticipated expectations had to be. And that just made it easier for all the departments and a lot less stress for our budget department.
Any other questions at this time? Any other discussion at this time? We are adjourned.
Is GK buying a lot?
I don't.